I'll take that one. Thank you. Hey, we are in the final stretch of boot camp. 3 days of clubs are down, 2 night sessions left, and just 1 full day of boot camp. And I'll say this, I love the fact that I've been able to be here with my family. And if we can put this picture up here, that my wife, Jennifer, she was the one up that painted this yesterday. So if you want to know who that was, it's Jennifer, my wife, and I love that she's able to join us. That's amazing. My son Liam, sometimes referred to as the Ooze Lord, sometimes as the guy that loves garlic bread a little bit too much. He's on a team, pretty fun. And then my 2 daughters are here as well. Karis has kind of become like the mascot of Hutto Bible Church's youth group. It's kind of fun. But if you put this next picture up here, that's us from Easter at our new church building, which is pretty exciting. But just I love that while I'm getting to speak with all of you, my whole family has been able to participate in this. And the cool thing about families is they bring out the absolute greatest joys in life and also the greatest anxiety in life. And they give you the best sermon illustrations. So back like 7 years ago, I was writing a talk for a different retreat, and I was sitting on my couch, like really plugged into working hard like this, and Liam and Chloe walked in. This was many years ago, and so they were 4 and 6 years old. They walk up and they go, "We're hungry, can we have some apples? Like, can you cut us some apples?" And I was like, "I'm a little bit busy right now, why don't you go just cut them yourself?" So Liam and Chloe go, "All right, let's do that." So they scurry into the kitchen, and I start hearing like climbing, and then I stop to think, how do you cut apples? With a knife. Wait, did I just send my 4 and 6-year-old to go play with knives after climbing on the counter? And my eyes get wide, and then I hear boom. Ah! That's the story of how we went from 3 kids back down to 2 kids. All right, if you can open your Bible, you can see the picture, there's still 3 of them. But so this happens and I'm like, what? I jump up, run into the kitchen, expecting to see one of the kids with like a knife sticking out of their chest, blood spraying everywhere. And instead what I see, Liam is on his back, Chloe is on top of him, and ground and pound like MMA style, just punching him as hard as she can as a 4-year-old. And I'm like, that's an awful lot of plot for 2 seconds. How did we go from what I heard to this? So apparently what happened was, Chloe goes in to grab the knife, and she falls down. And in the most big brother way imaginable, her brother sees her fall down and doesn't go, "Sister, are you okay?" No, he goes, and starts laughing at her. She's not crying because she is hurt or has been impaled or cut by a knife, has a concussion. No. She's crying out of embarrassment and then just starts punching her brother as intensely as she could. So families are fun because they give you amazing sermon illustrations. But when you hear the story, the reason that as soon as I say, and then I sent my 4-year-old to grab a knife, you all go, "Oh, that's not good," because we all know something really bad could happen. And that's a little bit what we're gonna kind of start diving into a little bit tonight in a bunch of different directions. But in my conversations with Chad and Jared over the last month, and even over the last couple of days about boot camp, about all of you, one of the recurring themes is that a lot of you have a lot of life going on. And by life, I mean stress, trauma, hurt, wounds, and a lot of healing needs to take place because we live in a world with a lot of pain in it. And one of the questions we are looking at tonight is, why is it that some people, when they face the hardest trials of life, grow deeper in their faith, and some of us struggle just because it's Tuesday? But I think back to 15 years ago, one of my friends died. And when I was in grade school with him, he was someone that was in youth group with me. When he was in high school, was diagnosed with cancer. And basically lived with cancer through most of high school, throughout his 20s, and then right around his 30th birthday, he finally passed from cancer. He'd been married not very long, and cancer finally caught up with him. And I went to his funeral, and one of the things that happened at his funeral just absolutely floored me, is that he had written a note to us. And we're showing up like, how could someone so young die, that their whole future was ahead of them, the potential, the loss, everything that could have happened. We missed out on his life. And his thought was, while he was preparing to die, was thinking of us. And he wrote a note like, I know you guys are in a lot of pain, but I'm with my Heavenly Father. I'm with God. And so you can have peace right now. You don't need to sit in pain, worry. I know you miss me, but I'm in a better place. And in that room, I was thinking to myself, like, what is the faith that you have while facing your death, that you're not thinking about yourself? You are thinking about everyone else that'll be left behind. And you're thinking, I'm off to be with my Heavenly Father. That's an incredible, incredible faith and an incredible way to experience God. And so often I wonder, why is it that people experience God? That phrase we've been using all week. We're supposed to know God, and by know we mean experience. And it seems like some people experience God on such a deeper, richer level than what it feels like I'm experiencing on a day-to-day level. Why is it? What are they experiencing? It reminds me of like a incident that happened 15, 16 years ago. A door-to-door salesman comes to my house. For some reason, I opened the door, which is a bad sign because I don't like saying no to people. So I'm like, oh, sure, whatever it is, let's do it. One time we bought door-to-door windows from a door-to-door salesman. That's how easy it is to sell me something. But this guy shows up at my door and he's going, hey, would you like some magic cleaner? Magic cleaner? What are you talking about? It's like, I've got the best cleaner on the planet. All right, let me see your magic cleaner. He goes, you see your driveway? That's disgusting. Watch this. All right, what are we gonna do? He goes, hold. And the driveway looks brand new. I'm like, wow, it looks like you pressure washed my driveway and all you did was spray it 3 times and go like this and magically it's brand new. He's like, that's not all it can do. Do you have a shower? I do. I bathe at least once a month. He goes, let's go look at your shower. All right, come into my house, strange salesman. We walk into my shower. He goes, you know the soap scum, it creates this film that doesn't go away. Watch this. Hold. And it's perfectly clean. It's like, it'll stay like that for a month. It cleans on such a deep level. It kills the bacteria and everything. Do you have dogs? I do have dogs. Do they get the eye boogers? They do. He goes, watch this. He grabs the dog, sprays it on the eyes, hold, wipes the dog's eyes, and like they start to sparkle. It sounds like I hear a harp as their eyes just glisten with dog. Sometimes my stories have a little exaggeration. The harp didn't happen. Everything else happened though. Like, what on earth? And then he goes, are you thinking about having kids? Because this was just a little bit before Liam was born. I was like, I am looking to have kids. He goes, well, it's non-toxic. It's super potent, but it's non-toxic. He unscrews the lid, licks the straw inside of it. I'm like, whoa. Like, he's like, yeah, your kid could drink the whole bottle. It just tastes like gross lemonade. Like, what? I'm like, this is incredible. Okay, I want to buy all of it, but also I don't want to get scammed. So I'm gonna look you up on the internet, come back in an hour, and we're gonna figure out if I'm gonna do this. But sounds like I wanna buy 2 truckloads of this stuff, and my wife will be very happy that we'll have the best cleaner on the planet. He leaves, go on the internet, search for magic cleaner guy, driveway, shower, shoots dog in the eyes, drinks it, and all these pages come up. Yeah, it's a scam, it doesn't work. No, the stuff they sell you, it's just Windex. Like, don't buy it, doesn't work. It's not real. And so I did not buy the magic cleaner. And he leaves, my wife comes home, and I tell her the tale of the magic cleaner. And legitimately for 15 years, she's like, but what was in the bottle? Like, he had something in the bottle that cleaned my driveway, and I saw it get clean and stay clean. He cleaned my shower, it stayed clean. He shot my dogs in the eyes, and they became happier, friendlier dogs. I saw him lick the straw and not start vomiting. So there's something that was in the bottle, he's just not selling it. And that just makes me think about faith. And why is it that some people seem to have a faith that is so rich, and you go, what do they have that I'm missing? It's like I got half the gospel and they've got the whole gospel. I don't fully understand what's going on. What am I missing? That's what I want to figure out. And it's not just us. It says in 2 Corinthians 12, 7 through 8, like if you're struggling and you have things in your life that they keep recurring in your life, this is what Paul had to say. Paul, as in the guy that wrote most of the New Testament, that was responsible for starting all these churches, this is what he said. If you are stuck, struggling, he said, I was given a thorn in my flesh, some struggle that he had. We don't know what it was, and I think that's intentional, because if we knew what it was, we'd be like, well, I don't struggle with that, or we'd make too big of a deal. But because we don't know, it's, okay, what is this thorn in his flesh? A messenger of Satan. We talked about these voices in our head last night, the things that people have said to you that have created insecurities that stick with you for a lifetime. I don't know exactly what he means by messenger of Satan, but calls to mind the fact that sometimes we have these voices in our head that just tell us lies to torment me. The phrase used by Paul, missionary of missionaries, writer of the New Testament, there's a thorn in his flesh tormenting him. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. The guy that wrote the New Testament. If you're struggling, you're like, I can't get rid of this thing, I keep failing, I keep leaning back into it. Paul was in the same position. Let that sink in a little bit. That this Christian life thing, it's tough to figure out. And we're trying to think like I want to experience God, but there's just something there in my life. A sin issue, a struggle that won't go away. And I stop and think about it. Sometimes it's not even a sin issue. And I don't want to entirely like equate sin issues and everything else, but for some people it's something different. It's a place where you need healing in your life, but it's not necessarily a sin issue. Where perhaps it's spiritual doubts, that you're like deep in your doubt about your faith and what that means, and you don't know who to talk to because you don't want to disappoint people. Maybe it's something that was said to you, something done to you, someone missing from your life, that there's a gap in your life because someone that should be there isn't there in your life. And like I said, it's not a sin issue. I don't want to equate the things, but it's still a thorn in your side, and it's still something in your life where you need healing. And you're like, God, I need something here. But for a lot of you, it is a sin issue. That thorn in the side, that pain that's there holding you back from fully experiencing God, it is a sin issue. A small one, a big one. We get trapped in these sin patterns. And it normally starts really small. Like what's not gonna happen, boot camp ends, Jared walks outside, someone walks up with a trench coat and goes, hey, want some black tar heroin? Jared's probably not gonna be like, actually, that sounds like that would really hit the spot. Let's go for it. And Jared becomes a heroin junkie. Like, that's not the way it works. Both because normally heroin dealers don't stand outside churches, but also it doesn't go like that. Except maybe with Jared. But sin creeps into our life when we're tired, during trials, when we're stressed, when we're emotional, when we're vulnerable. A little door is opened and sin starts to creep in. And the first time you do something, it normally is a big deal. And you feel guilty about it the first time you let him put your hands on you, the first time you put your hands on her. when no one's around. You start crossing physical boundaries you know you shouldn't cross. The second time, it's still uncomfortable, but it's not as uncomfortable. Maybe it's the second time you're invited to that party where people pull out alcohol and you know, I shouldn't do this, but everyone else is doing it. And so you get a little bit more comfortable. The third time, it starts to feel a little bit normal. And you're going to that website, looking at pornography late at night, and it just becomes what you do when you have a moment by yourself. And by the fourth time, you're hooked. There's this thing, and you're like, I don't know how to dig this thing out of my life that's made its way in. And suddenly there's this thorn in your side holding you back from fully experiencing God. There's these lies we believe that keep us heading down these paths. It's no big deal. Everyone's doing it. My friends invited me, everybody's doing it. It's not that big of a deal. So all of a sudden you do something you know you shouldn't do, and you keep walking down that path. Today was a bad enough day. Sometimes we start to rationalize doing things we know we should not do because, once again, you're stressed, tragedy happened, and you start rationalizing things. Reminds me of someone I knew in Bible college that, generally speaking, good person, but their apartment was broken into. And they lived in the wrong neighborhood, apartment is just totally ransacked, everything stolen. And their coping mechanism in the middle of all of this was to turn to alcohol to escape the pain. And when I say that, what I don't mean is like a beer, I mean like not good drinking to escape the bad version of it. Or, I'll stop after. You're in a season of life where it's stressed out, grades, something's going on that makes it so you just feel the weight of life, and there's this thing you do to escape. Having done youth ministry, I guess now, over 20 years in different forms and fashions, known a lot of youth pastors, and a lot of their struggles, you carry a lot of burdens. And one particular person just had a window of time where there was an excessive amount of death surrounding them, of tragedies, all people under the age of 50, multiple teenage suicides, and once again, looking for a mechanism to deal with the weight and the stress of life. It was alcohol as a coping mechanism, not a beer, the dangerous escape life. And we rationalize these choices, and we go further and further and further down a path, getting that sin rooted in our life, that thorn deeper in our side, all believing these lies all along the way, and knowing that God's standard for us is absolute holiness. It's one of the things we've been talking about, you guys have been learning this week while teaching your gospel presentations. We have a holy God. And I don't even know which specific gospel presentations we're doing this year, but very frequently these illustrations of pure white and not a speck on there, as these mechanisms just picture holiness. I mean, literally means holy, literally means set apart, without blemish. That is God's standard. I read an article on the internet. I should put this article up here. Bugs, rodent hair, and poop. How much is legally allowed in the food that you eat every day? If you go into the FDA guidelines, they have a section on the acceptable amount of rat poop in your food. For me, I would think the acceptable amount of rat poop is 0. They also have an acceptable amount of cyanide that can be in your food. If you don't know, cyanide kills you. And there is an acceptable amount of cyanide that can be in your food. And you go, well, that's weird. The same way that you go, oh, the acceptable amount is 0. The acceptable amount of sin for a holy God is 0. And all of us can look at our lives and go, I'm not measuring up to that very well. I'm failing that test miserably. heard someone talk about the longest jump ever, the world record for the long jump. And you stop and think about that. World records are fascinating to me, that there's someone out there that has done something more extreme than everyone else on the planet. And you play it out, especially something like long jump. That's something you do on the playground. Like, let's see who can jump the furthest. That's just something silly boys do, and we turned it into like a global tournament. Who can jump the furthest? Well, the world record for long jump was set now about 35 years ago, and it was set on one day by Carl Lewis. And I'll measure this out for you. From about there. Okay. This is the world record for the long jump. Actually, this is as far as my tape measure goes. We're only halfway there, though. So from right here, that's 15 feet, right there. Okay. Here we go. Nope. Right, nope, that's not it. Here. Okay. I'm playing this out in my mind. Whenever I heard about this, I went, let me see what that is. I'm imagining if I run, he probably didn't do this when he jumped. I don't know why I did, but I'm in the air, about right here, I go, what am I doing? I'm about to start falling down. But for him, he sets a world record. Someone jumped this distance. Crazy part, the next day, Mike Powell jumped that much further. The very next day, he was beat by like an inch. You gotta imagine, what is that like? You set the world record. No one's ever done it before, and the next day somebody beats you. And in 35 years, no one has beat either one of them. In the history of the world, 2 people have been able to jump that far. Stop and think about that. I could offer you $1 billion to jump that far. I could offer you unlimited Fortnite V-Bucks to jump that far. Like, yeah, I'm offering it. You can train as much as you want. You won't be able to do that. You might jump further than me, but I'm not judging you on beating me. I'm judging you on that standard. And God's standard is not graded on a curve. You can't look at the worst person at your school and go, well, I'm doing better than that guy. You can't do the classic, at least I'm not Hitler. We're not judged based off Hitler. You know what we are judged based off of? We're created in the image of God. That's the standard. Shh. Perfection. We're created to be God's likeness on this earth. As we talked about yesterday, you are God's masterpiece, his artwork, made in his image. You are his self-portrait. But the other thing we know is that we're sinners. The other thing we know is that we're sinners. We're created in the image of God. We are meant to be his likeness, but we sin. As soon as I do this, as I knew this was coming in advance, and we're like, oh, people are gonna be pissed off tomorrow. Every time you sin, you deface the image of God. That sinking feeling you get in your soul when you see me pour paint on something you watched be created in 30 minutes, that sinking like, oh, how could you do that? How much worse is every single sin? You are made in the image of God. You are supposed to be the likeness of a God without sin, without blemish. And we're more upset about a painting than the defacing of the image of God. Just let that sink in a little bit, how numb we get to how vile and gross sin actually is. And we forget how destructive sin can be. We talked about on night 1 and 2 how we're supposed to have this wholehearted devotion. Specifically, David told Solomon to have wholehearted devotion for his calling. And what we know is that Solomon did not do that. It says in 1 Kings 11, Solomon had 700 wives, who were princesses and concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. His heart was not wholly true to the Lord of his God, as was the heart of David, his father. David told him one thing: be devoted, have a whole heart, wholly committed. And Solomon, he loved God, but he really loved women. A lot of them. 700 wives. And they turned him away from God. And if you look at the history of Israel, people like this, a lot of people don't understand the full history of the Old Testament. Because Solomon turned away from God, the nation of Israel split in two. There were only 3 kings of the nation of Israel before it split: Saul, David, Solomon. Only one of them was wholly devoted to God, and the kingdom expanded greatly during that time. And Solomon, his heart was half-hearted, and it led to the nation splitting in two, into Judah and Israel. Both nations eventually, within just a few hundred years, were conquered by other nations, and that region of the world, Israel, has been in utter chaos for 3,000 years since Solomon didn't obey the charge to be wholly devoted. Think how many times in the news there's chaos in the Middle East. So much of that goes back to Solomon did not follow his father's command, and the nation crumbled. But the reality is there's always more on the line than we think when it comes to sin. We start down a path and we think, it's not that too big of a deal. Just one thing. We believe those lies. There's always more on the line than we think. Reminds me of a simple story. I'm a dog person, so we always have dogs, and somehow we keep getting large dogs that run and jump fences. So we can put up the picture. These are my old dogs. Fun dogs, but they would run. And one of the things you'll notice around their necks is they have these little boxes. Those are shock collars. Not because we wanted to shock the dogs, but because we were desperate to find any way to stop them from running away, because they would literally jump over our 6-foot fence and just run away as fast as possible. So we ended up getting an invisible fence, and it mostly worked. There was at least one occasion where the one on the left ran for the fence, jumped up, I run after her, she grabs the top and is about to jump over, I grab her tail and I'm pulling her tail. Normally you don't want to pull a dog's tail. I'm not pulling the dog's tail because I'm cruel and want to hurt the dog. I don't want the dog to run away. And I'm looking at the dog and I can see the electrodes like sparks shooting out of the dog's neck, trying to escape. And I'm like, why are you trying to run away so desperately? And the reason I'm pulling the dog's tail, please don't pull your dog's tail, and using a shock collar is because if this dog runs away, she will either get run over by a car and turn into dog hamburger, or she'll just be homeless and starve to death. I don't want either one of those things to happen to this dog. Therefore, I'm pulling on her tail. Please don't run away. The dog does not realize there is more at stake than she can see. Dogs have very simple minds, and they don't realize if you run away, you die. The same thing happens with your sin. You start down paths that lead to destruction. few quick stories of people I've known. One of them was a chair 2 guy. We talked about first night, chair 2, that's the person that serves, but they're not experiencing God. They look good on the outside, they're not great on the inside. There's a guy I knew from Bible college, super plugged into a youth ministry, engaged, looked great on the outside, hardcore porn sex addict. And I know there's people in this room, you've started down that path, and he went down it long enough that it started to like trickle out and feed into all areas of his life. Engagement was broken off, and he found himself on one occasion spending his last dollar at a strip club, left the parking lot, and his car was gone. It had been stolen. There's nothing left in his life except his shame. And that story, by the grace of God, that snapped him out of it, and he got the help that he needed. But a lot of other people, they keep going down these paths. Another person that I knew, this is someone from doing student ministry, one of my former students. This was a chair 3 person, half-hearted, that she loved God. She also wanted to fit in. And so through a group that she was in, a band, made a group of friends because she wanted to fit in. And more they were pressuring her to cross moral boundaries and encouraging her to do everything church was telling her not to do. Drinking at parties, crossing boundaries, and eventually this led to the point in time they kept pressuring this person that she snuck out one night and hooked up with some random person, though she had a boyfriend at youth group. Of course, unfortunately in this situation, in the guilt of everything, instead of turning back around, she ran away from church. And she let the sin just kind of sink in and take root. Final one, having worked with a lot of, I mentioned the youth pastors before that I've worked with that have found themselves in their own sin, known people that have just gone farther down the path of coping with alcohol, longer and longer, and you reach this point in time where there are no good options. You've headed so far down a path that there's no good options. You've headed so far that confessing has consequences. And by this point in time in the talk, it's real easy to be like, well, goodness, what am I supposed to do? I keep failing, and you keep telling me a lot of other people keep failing too. What am I supposed to do with that? And you think to yourself, well, the Christian life isn't difficult. The Christian life isn't really hard. This thing's impossible. Well, in fact, it is. There's only one person who's been able to pull it off. He was so good at it, they named the whole thing after him. And that's the point, and it has been all along. Jesus didn't die on the cross just to save you from hell. Jesus died on the cross so you can experience him today. That is the gospel. It says in 2 Corinthians 12, this is coming from Paul. Paul, the guy said, there's a thorn in my side. There's a messenger from the devil. Tell me, I'm tormented by this thing. But God said to me, my grace is sufficient, for my power is made perfect in weakness. If you are lost in sin, deep in your struggles, maybe it's doubt, maybe it's just insecurities, whatever it is, God's grace is sufficient. Paul murdered Christians. David had a man killed. Abraham pimped out his wife in Egypt at one point in time. There's a weird story in Genesis about that. The heroes of the faith were just as big of sinners as you are. But they turned to God. And that's what we're meant to do. You have these thoughts, I can't do it. Well, exactly. You're never supposed to. The idea isn't that God saved you from hell, now fix yourself tomorrow. It's that God died and empowers you every day. It's not I try harder, it's I surrender to him more and more and more. That's at the heart of the gospel. It says in Colossians 2, this is the passage that actually Jared taught on Sunday in the student ministry. It's like, well, that's perfect timing. It says, so then, just as you received Christ Jesus as Lord, Continue to live your lives in him, rooted and built up in him, strengthened in the faith as you were taught, and overflowing with thankfulness. How did you receive the gospel? Was it try harder, fix yourself? No. Just as you received, continue. Faith, surrender, admitting, I can't, but you can. The same exact way that you initially put your faith in Christ. The gospel that you are teaching to children and presenting to children this week and again in 2 weeks, that same gospel that saved continues to save you, just as you received faith, grace. Continue. They're not, like, faith is not a one-time thing. Grace is not a one-time thing. Confession is not a one-time thing. They are daily practices. That is the Christian life. And for some reason, we put our faith in Christ, and then it's like we think, well, I'm supposed to have everything together now, so I better hide the fact that I don't. Why is that? The whole basis of this whole thing is I can't do it. So why on earth do we suddenly start pretending as if we need to hide our faults and stop confessing our issues and keep it a secret? Reminds me of something that happened. It's getting a little bit tense in here, so I thought I'd say something a little bit lighter. So back 20 years ago when my dad died, that's my transition to something lighter. Is that too dark of a joke? So back, see, I told you I'd break the tension, just had to make a really dark joke. Back when my dad was sick, my cousin moved in with us to help take care of him. So she lived with us for several months. And at one point in time, she wanted to see her boyfriend and her dog. So we went to go meet them in Shreveport. If you don't know, Shreveport is a casino town. So we drive to Shreveport, and her boyfriend is like, well, if we're here, I'm gambling, we're going to a casino, and I want to go to a fancy casino. It's like, okay. One problem. Fancy casinos do not want you to bring your dog into the casino. So we pull into the parking garage, and he goes, hey man, come here real quick. I need you to take the dog and put the dog in this bag, and I need you to carry the dog through the lobby. What? Yeah, I mean, they won't let us bring a dog in, so I need you to put the dog in the bag, carry the dog into the lobby. Like, how about we remix this? You put the dog in the bag, and you carry the dog through the lobby. Like, no, you're gonna carry the dog in the bag. Like, how is this a moment in my life? So he puts the dog in the bag, and I'm like, we walk into the lobby. There's the welcome station, the concierge, security. It's like everywhere, every step I take, I'm just waiting for the dog to start barking, or the dog starts going like one of these, and the bag starts moving, and someone's like, what does that guy have in the bag? Like, what? Who is this guy with the dog? Like, I'm just terrified that something will happen that will expose that I have a dog in a bag in the casino lobby, but like quietly sneaking through, turn the corner, into the elevator, doors closed. I made it. My heart is still racing 23 years later, but I made it. The dog did not bark in the lobby. Woo, yeah, thank you. Thank you, I appreciate that. Why do I say that? So many of you are living your life with something, some metaphoric dog in a bag in your life that you're afraid will start barking and people will find out. There's something you're afraid to get out that if people learn about it, if you have to deal with it, it'll hurt your reputation. People will see you differently. There'll be consequences. And so you don't talk about it because you're afraid. A lot of times, as we're talking about, a lot of them are sin issues. Sometimes it's not a sin issue. Sometimes it is something else. And they're legitimate fears sometimes. Fear of losing love, fear of losing reputation, fear of consequences. And it stops you from being vulnerable because you are afraid. If you're afraid of the consequences of the dog in a bag getting out, I understand. I understand so much more than you could possibly imagine. When I told you I couldn't imagine anywhere on planet Earth I'd rather be this week than be here, that's because I had my own dog in a bag. From 2012 until 2016, I was deep struggling with alcohol. Earlier, I mentioned a friend in South Carolina whose apartment was robbed and dealt with alcohol. Someone that dealt with multiple suicides. It was a little misleading. That was me. That was me. And while I was a pastor, my coping mechanism for stress when there's too much was I turned to alcohol. As I told you before, I had an alcoholic father, got alcoholic genes. And so I started down a path that started as a coping mechanism and then very quickly spiraled out of control. And I did a good job of keeping it secret for a long time, for several years, but I was carrying a dog in a bag for a really long time. And in June 2016, at boot camp, in this room, I was pastor leading boot camp, and the dog started barking. And the signs became really obvious that something was deeply, deeply wrong with me. So much so that in this room, if you know Brent Hagan, he pulled me aside to be like, Sean, what is going on? I've seen weird Sean, and this is a different thing. And I lied my way out of it. There were good lies too. They were true enough. They were only kind of lies. Left out the important detail. But he literally sent me home from boot camp because he knew something was so deeply wrong with me. And went home, talked with my wife, and she didn't even really fully know everything that was going on. And that night at like 5 a.m, basically wrote my resignation to the church. And had to call my mom at 5 a.m. to tell her everything that was going on. So when I talk about being vulnerable, talking about dog in a bag, failing to say what's really happening, letting sin take root, I mean that on such a deep level that I have felt the pain of letting sin take over and trying to hide it. And I fully understand the lies that we believe. I fully understand the fear. I believed if I came forward, if I admitted everything, my life would be over. And some of those fears weren't totally detached from reality. I had to resign from the church. There were big consequences of opening up and saying everything that was going on in my life. And even like I talked about how like I do YouTube for a living, I started my YouTube channel because I was unemployed. The reason I started my YouTube channel, I didn't have a job and I was in rehab for alcohol addiction. I didn't want to be a YouTuber. That's like a backup thing that's kind of cool. This is what I wanted to do. And my dog in a bag, my addiction, that I didn't deal with it properly early enough and didn't find right coping mechanisms all along the way, cost me what I actually wanted to do. When I say sin has consequences, I mean that on such a deep and personal level. But that's not the end of the story. James 4 says, but God opposes the proud and gives grace to the humble. The proud person says, I need to fix myself. I can fix myself. I care more about looking good than being healthy. There's a lot of you in this room doing image control, trying to keep up your reputation, trying to look the way that you think people want you to look to make a parent proud, to fit in the group. The proud person is trying to keep the exterior looking good. The humble person says, I can't, but you can. The humble person says, I know I need God in my life. I care more about being holy than looking holy. I will do whatever I need to do to get right with God and experience God, not look right. So in June 2016, I came forward, and you cannot imagine the pain of having your deepest secrets literally said on a Sunday morning. Or if all you care, like the thing you care about most in the world is your youth ministry, and your life implodes in the middle of the biggest week of the year. But healing requires confession, community, humility. God opposes the proud and gives grace to the humble. So I went to the elder, but whatever you want me to do. There's a lot of churches out there, you have moral failing, they kick you out of the church. We're still at Hutto Bible Church. We're still there. I believed my ministry would be over. I'd never do youth ministry again if I came clean. Stop and think about this. I'm speaking at boot camp right now in the room where everything came crashing down. That is grace. That is redemption. That's the gospel. That's what we're meant to do. Sin isn't freedom. Sin is bondage. And the only way to truly live is to lean into grace, confession, and being vulnerable. If you're trapped under the weight of sin, if you've got the dog in the bag, it's all about surrender and loving God and wanting God more than caring about your reputation. We keep going back to this verse, but the eyes of the Lord are searching the earth to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to Him. If you're struggling, doubting, dog in the bag, sin, addicted, but your heart is committed to God, He's searching to strengthen you right now to give you what you need to serve God the right way. One final little story. I want to talk about Karis. Our youngest daughter, her name is Karis. That is actually Greek for grace. That is not unintentional. That 2 years after my life imploded, we find out we're pregnant with Karis. And my wife was like, this is our second chance. She's like our little grace baby. So we named her Karis. She's part of that redemptive story of moving forward. But she used to like stand on our stairs, and she'd see me walk by and she'd go, Dad, catch me. And she would just jump, throw her arms up there, just jump, and I'd catch her every time. She tried it with the babysitter once. Babysitter didn't catch her. Little funny afterwards, wasn't so funny at the time. But she just absolutely trusts me. Dad, catch me. Jumps, total abandon, into my arms, and I catch her. No fear of what would happen, just jumping, knowing I would catch her, arms up in the air. Right now, if you're struggling, doubting, you know that dog in the bag in your life, you know what you've been keeping secret, that conversation you've been avoiding, that you know you need to be vulnerable, you know you need to open up, right now, throw up your arms and surrender and do it. Have that conversation. Don't wait 2 hours. Don't wait till your guard comes back up. If you know you feel the Spirit working in you to work through something, get that healing right now. Go find someone to talk to. a youth leader, a friend, grab them on the shoulder, go out into the lobby. Don't wait. Don't let sin creep into your life. Have the conversations you need to have. Work to have that healing right now. I tell you that as someone that went far too long living in fear, and it hurt really bad. Stop today. God opposes the proud, and he gives grace to the humble. You can have that healing now, that freedom now, if you choose to. So now if you guys stand up now to come forward to worship, if there's something on your soul, go talk to a leader. Please talk to someone now. Do not wait. Have the conversation today. Process now, even in worship if you need to. As we start singing, Jesus have it all, and you know you're not giving him your all because you have something you're holding on to, right now, go and start working through all of it. Jesus is worthy, and Jesus will give you all the grace you need, and he can do immeasurably more than we ask or imagine. Sing and worship.